thanks guys for joining us in our third segment and our final segment. And so it's opening day, of course, so why not talk about the issues with Major League Baseball? And let's start out with something that is very relevant to this season. The first time this season, they have now expanded the instant replay. Back in 2008, they added this instant replay for home runs, but now they are now expanding it where coaches can actually challenge plays. So what do you guys think of this instant replay? Is it really hurting the game? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? What do you think, Davison?
I don't think it's a good idea. I think that they were all right with the amount of replay that they had in the game already. The game's slow enough, and I think that this addition to the rules and regulations for instant replay is only going to make it that much longer, which is going to dwindle the interest of wanting to watch baseball. And I just feel like Major League managers are some of the whiniest group of old men that I've ever seen in my life. They're going to argue, come the seventh inning, they're going to argue every single call, and they're just going to make a big deal. And there's also so much room to like cheat the system in terms of the replay. Like just the amount of things that is going to come up and I feel in the next few months is just going to be ridiculous.
I'm for instant replay. I think it's needed. It's the 21st century. You should get the calls right. We saw in the World Series last year, huge plays that affect the game. They got them right for the most part in the World Series last year because the umpires get together. But replay will make that easier. My concern, like Davison said, is how much time it's going to take. If they're up there for 5 minutes talking back and forth with the booth in New York that's going to review all these plays, I don't like that. The games are long enough. We'll touch on that a little bit, but I don't want this to take too much time. I hope that the system that they have in place will, limit the time for this, that they can just go in quickly. The person that's looking at it can just say, yep, he's safe at first base, or whatever it may be. It needs to be short, it needs to be direct. My other concern is, how they're gonna, if somebody's on second base and a guy hits a ball down the line and they have to determine if it's fair or foul, if it's called foul and they review it and they say it's fair, where does the guy on second base go? Does he go home? Does he go to third? These are things that they're going to have to determine. It'll be umpire's discretion, but I think we're going to have a lot of controversy with stuff like that on fair foul calls, trap balls, as far as where the runners are going to be placed. That's something that they have to figure out.
Yeah, I just don't like, the fair and foul thing. I just feel like that is just so ticky-tacky and it's just so nitpicky. And at the end of the day, the umpires have the toughest job in terms of making the call, right? And maybe instant replay is like revolutionary, but I just feel like they should modify it more and kind of take extra precautions because I am not buying that. Joe Torre says that it's going to take 90 seconds for them to phone to New York, talk to the guys over there, and at the same time watch the video at the park. And it's going to take 90 seconds.
Does that include the time that takes the ump to walk
30.
to the booth?
No, it doesn't.
I'm not buying that at all. Not buying it.
Okay, it's 2014, and I have two problems with 2014 and the fact that the MBTA, you can't pay debit or credit on that. That's outrageous. And the fact that there's a major league sport that doesn't replay their calls. That is ridiculous. What are we doing here? It's like the NHL, even though the NHL has the best system, I think. But even though they have screwed things up recently this year, but I think the NHL is the best system of instant replay. So yes, I agree that I am so for instant replay with baseball. It's a professional sport. The umps can just call whatever they want, but they have screwed calls up before. But baseball, the thing with baseball is it's such a different sport in the way that there's a call every single play. There's a call. Mm-hmm. There's a foul. There's strike, a ball, and then we have all this.
Safe, out.
But the issue I have with this instant replay that they have is that there's a long list of you can and cannot call and challenge, and so I'm confused by it. I still don't know what the new challenge rules are. There's a whole list of it, and it's confusing. But let me talk about one thing that you mentioned on with the instant replay, that it's going to take so long now that the baseball's already long enough that we're going to talk about that in a second. Don't you wait? But the thing of it's going to take so long for them to go review these calls. But essentially, isn't it the same length if a manager wants to run out and then start arguing with the ump and then throw in his hat and then takes peanuts from a guy in the fence and then throws it somewhere, lifts up a base, does all that crap. But then if we have instant replay and they have the eligibility, that's a good word that I screwed up, I'm sorry. If they have that to now challenge plays, maybe they won't have this fire and this hissy fit to now go and challenge plays because they have the availability to do that. So maybe they won't be all so pissed off and causing a hissy fit and arguing for an hour all these umps because now that they have the availability to challenge a play, so there won't be that fire and complaining of managers and everything. So that's one thing to look on. But so the instant replay, I think, are you guys in agreement? Do you think that they could, Davison, is there any way that you think they could improve the instant replay and have it with it not being too much of a tarnishing of the game in a way? Like, do you think that there's any way that they can have instant replay that you would be satisfied with it?
I would be satisfied with it if it wasn't so focused on the nuances of certain things. Because they say that it's more geared towards kind of fixing those game-changing plays, but anything can be a game-changing play in baseball when you think about it. It could be the ninth inning, 2 outs, and there could be a bang-bang play at second, and the runner's called out, and that's the end of the game, and it's controversial. I just don't want that last that split second. So I feel if they can just keep it at, line drives that graze the foul line or maybe fair or foul is cool. And home runs, obviously, ground rule doubles, those kind of things. But not delving into like the nuances of it.
Strike, foul ball. It's
Right, it's just a little much.
It's going to become a process.
They're not going to do balls and strikes, but
Thank
I
God.
think, like I mentioned before, the one thing that I don't want to happen is that it takes too long. It needs to be short. They need to just but I want them to get the call right. They need to get it right, but they need to do it in a timely manner.
All right, we're going to move on to another issue first before we get into the length of these games. So Miguel Cabrera just signs his very cheap contract, of course. He's paying for nothing now these days. And obviously we have Zach Greinke. That's sarcasm if you didn't get it. He's getting an outrageous amount of money. And so we have guys like Zach Greinke, who's being one of the most paid pitchers in the league. Then Clayton Kershaw, obviously. And we have all these players that are getting these incredible contracts, like Albert Pujols and all this, and Robinson Cano. Almost forgot about him.
Yeah.
So we have all these giant contracts of players that never really pan out at all. So do you think that these giant contracts are really tainting the game? And do you think the MLB should maybe consider having a salary cap? What do you think?
I don't think that they should think of having a salary cap because that's what makes the majors so unique.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like with all of these major contracts that are going on, these executives giving out all this money, I feel like players who have some star potential are going to start thinking that they're better than they are. Everybody that comes into the league now that's a star prospect is going to think that they're the next Mike Trout and that they're the next Miguel Cabrera, and they're going to demand all of this money for what? At the end of the day, you want to – and I feel that it's taking the impact off of just being on a team and wanting to win a World Series. Now it's more so about money, and I got to make X amount of dollars because this guy's making this amount of money, and I want to compete in that level in terms of money. The game has never been – the game is founded on money, but it's not. It's never been a part of the core values of the game and of the sport. At the end of the day, you got to want to win.
Look, we're going to see this more and more now. The teams are making millions and millions of dollars on these new TV deals that they got. There's so much extra money for the teams to spend. Just think of them. They're getting close to $50 million from the TV partners, the national TV partners. That's $50 million that you can spend right there, plus all the money you get from tickets, from merchandise, from the food you sell at your stadium, from every little thing. That's not even included in that $50 million. So they have so much money to spend that they're not worried about spending money with no cap. So, but I think the length of these contracts, Miguel Cabrera, 10 years. He's 31 years old right now. Okay, we saw him breaking down last year already. He couldn't play third base. He was injured. He's going to play first base this year. What do you think he's going to look like at the end of that contract? He's not even going to be able to walk. He's going to be a DH. Okay, 10 years. Have teams not learned from the A-Rod deal, from these other huge long-term deals? I just don't understand. I get the money. Miguel Cabrera, he should be the highest paid player in the league. He's the best player. But 10 years at $30 million a year, come on. The length of these contracts, I just don't understand it. The teams keep doing it. And on the reverse side of that, you see what the Angels did with Mike Trout. 6 years. For a guy that's just coming, he's 22 years old, whatever he is. Great contract. 6 years in the middle of, not even in his prime yet. He's a young player. That's the kind of deal that I support for these teams, not these 10-year deals for 30 to 35-year-old players. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, the Mike Trout, that was fantastic. And again, if you look at the list, I think maybe only one of those big long-term, high-paying contracts have only panned out maybe once or twice in the major leagues. And I think it's just the nature I think Manny Ramirez was a good one for the Red Sox, but it's the nature of the sport. It's the individuality, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It's about the individual player and them, and they're more focused with the money. And you look at a sport like hockey, where it's more about the team and the organization than it really is about the player, like it is maybe football too. It's more about the player, and then the NBA. That's just a players' league. People can go wherever they want, just based if it's sunny there where they play. It comes down to the different sports. And so let's dive in more about issues with baseball. And I read an article recently, and it's no secret that Major League Baseball, baseball in general, is really decreasing in value and interest in young kids. Young kids ages 12 to 17 are now turning to other sports such as lacrosse. And they want to go play lacrosse anymore because they just, can you really blame them when baseball games are just so long and so dull and long these days, and it's just so dragged out because at the MLB they just drag it out. So now, why do you think players and young kids are losing interest in baseball? Like, do you think it is the MLB, the fact of how long those games are?
I think that has a lot to do with it, but at the end of the day, I feel like the other major sports do a far better job at showcasing and highlighting the better aspects of their sport. I feel like baseball, all you have to judge players on is the All-Star Game and the Home Run Derby. Home Run Derby, more specifically, kind of glorifies that home run and makes you want to play baseball so you can hit home runs. But it doesn't show kids and kids that are growing up that, you know, you don't necessarily have to hit home runs, that you can be a good hitter, that you can steal bases. And I don't think a lot of kids growing up kind of know that really. They don't appreciate it as much. And I think that Major League Baseball can do a whole lot more with their RBI program in terms of like projecting that out to kids and like wanting that and trying to make them be more focused on playing the game and appreciating it.
I want to preface this by saying that I know tons of kids that still love baseball and still like to play it, but there is a major problem, and it's the phones. It's these things. Everybody wants to look at their phone. They can't stay off it. They can't stay off the internet. That everybody is so locked in constantly that they can't be bored at all. During a baseball game, there's tons of downtime. The pitcher's walking around the mound for 5 minutes. The batter's out, outside the box, fixing his, Nomar style, fixing his batting gloves constantly, fixing his, sleeves constantly. That stuff has got to stop. You have to be, conscious of how long these games are taking. They take too long. We sit here in Boston, in one of the worst cities for this, with the Red Sox. They grind out at bats. They take long, their pitchers take long. These games take 3.5, 4 hours when they're playing the Yankees. So we see it a lot more than, say, some of the National League teams do. But they need to cut down the time of these games. It takes too long. Kids don't have the attention span to sit down and watch a baseball game anymore because it just takes too long. They don't want to play if they don't want to watch it on TV. I think that's a simple answer. It's a pace of play problem, and baseball has done nothing to fix it. They've done nothing. You don't hear, Bud Selig doesn't talk about it. I feel like there's no drive for baseball to fix the problem, and it's going to be a wake-up call for them. Kids do want to play lacrosse. They play soccer. They play all these other sports because baseball is just not at the level of the other sports like hockey and football, where it's constant action and you can't look away from the TV. Baseball, you can look away, you can go on your phone, you can go on your computer, you can talk with your friends. There's just not enough to draw in kids to stay glued at the TV, stay glued on the game.
Yeah, you nailed it right away. We do not have the attention span anymore. Kids are growing up with their iPhones, and it's just, I think the one solution is add a time clock, add a pitch clock. They have to give them like 20 seconds to really get into it, like maybe 10, 15 seconds. We don't need, especially with batters, we don't need David Ortiz, and let's say it's in the 13th inning, it's 2 a.m., it's rainy out, and he's spitting on his hands, praying to Mecca. And we're doing this, and it's like, come on, man. I don't feel like sitting up till 3 a.m. every night watching you spit on your hands in the 13th inning, and then John Lester walking around with his beanbags just juggling now. We don't need to be doing this. You have a pitch clock. Get these games speeded up. We cannot be sitting here for hours after hours every single night doing this. And that's why I think a pitch clock to get this game rolling will really help these games out, because every game is averaging about 3 hours. Now get it down to 2 hours, because these are every night. We don't need to be doing this every single night of just sitting through David Ortiz and whatever he has to do to get into the game. Fix his belt, and then It's gross. It's hard to watch. It's annoying to watch, and so we really do need to get a pitch clock. I think that will be the solution. But all right, there's many issues with baseball, and they will need to be addressed when Bud Selig steps down. They need to be addressed soon because the sport is losing interest fast and rapid, and we're gonna. Any more thoughts? I think we're going to conclude that one right there.
it. Yeah, I
All
think
right.
it's all good.
Yeah, I'm like baseball. I'm just
happy
rambling
opening
on
day.
now for 10 minutes about nothing because that's what baseball does. It's just it's a league run by dinosaurs.
But Jared,
so.
baseball is good. Come on,
Okay.
spring's
Baseball's
coming. It's sleeting out, but spring I think will come eventually.
Guys,
someday.
enjoy opening day. Enjoy the Red Sox season. You all have to thank me because I did not shave my awkward neck beard, supporting Mike Napoli and his beard. Everyone from Studio 73, Eric Davison, thank you everyone that helped. See you in a few weeks.
Adios.